The New Balance 1080 V15 and the 880 V15 saw serious changes compared to the previous iterations. However, these recent models have at least 6 key differences between them, whether you want to use them for walking or for running, or you're just interested in their influence in medical conditions. Let's look at the 880 V15. So we've got 40.5mm of cushion in the rear foot, 34.5 in the forefoot, giving you a classic 6mm drop. In contrast to that, the brand says that the 1080 V15 has 40mm of cushion in the rear foot, 34 in the forefoot. However, when it was cut open and tested by Run and Repeat, they showed that it actually had 37 in the rear foot, and that makes sense because when you look at the two shoes, it looks like and it feels like there's a lot more cushioning underneath your foot in the 880. Now the cushioning is also very different, but first of all we've got a lighter shoe in the 1080 coming in at 261 grams versus 281 grams in the 880. So a slightly heavier shoe. The cushioning is the classic Fresh Foam X cushioning that we see in a lot of the New Balance shoes, so you kind of know what you're getting with this. It's relatively soft, really comfortable. However, there's always been some questions over the durability of this type of cushioning. Whereas with the 1080, they brought out a brand new type of cushioning to New Balance, and that's the informational cushioning. That feels so different than what we saw on the Fresh Foam. It's bouncier, more energetic, but that has some downsides and some upsides whether you're using them for walking or running. Now the outsoles are slightly different as well, and we feel like we got a slightly better grip on the 880, and the geometry is slightly different. So we have a slightly more aggressive forefoot rocker in the 880 and a much flatter shoe overall in the 1080 compared to what we saw in the V14. Now that's really influential whether you're using these shoes for different medical conditions, especially around the forefoot. And we'll talk about that when we discuss the fit. But first I just want to talk to you about the stability of the shoes. So the 880 V15, as we talked about, the cushioning isn't as bouncy or as energetic, but what you get is a firmer feel underneath your foot, which makes the shoe a little bit more stable in terms of its feel. It's got some sidewalls on the inside and the outside of the shoe, and it's got a really broad base of support underneath your foot. Therefore, we classify it as more of a stable neutral shoe rather than the 1080, which is what we call a classic neutral shoe only. It's got a narrower base underneath the shoe. The cushioning is softer, especially when you're walking. It feels a little bit more unstable compared to the previous iteration, and therefore it doesn't get that stability element that we see in the 880. And on top of the shoe, they're completely different as well. We've got a brand new, more knit looking upper on the 1080, whereas we've got a classic engineered mesh in the 880, which is quite breathable. Now the fit in the toe boxes are slightly different. So we've got a classic fit in the 880. Now New Balance are known for having a universal fit, so you've got plenty of space in the toe box, good volume in there as well, and you've got an extremely stiff forefoot. So what you're getting in there is a classic fit that also comes in a wide and an extra wide version as well. Now the 1080 is marginally narrower, marginally more tapered, so it gives you a bit more of a snug feel, a bit more of a snug fit, but it also comes in a wide and an extra wide version for those of you with a wider foot. The lockdown is great on both shoes. If you've got a higher instep, I think you'll prefer the room in the 880, and you've got a slightly deeper heel bevel at the back, again just giving you a bit more of a secure feel. Slightly shallower in the 1080 and a little bit more flexible around the back of the shoe. So if you wanted to use these shoes for walking, well, they're just completely different overall. The 880 V15 is probably one of the most underrated walking shoes on the market right now. It's stable, loads of cushioning underneath your foot, and it doesn't bottom out at the end of the day. The only questions around this shoe is the durability. If you're using it all day, every day, for instance, if you have a job where you're standing and walking all day long, it might not last as long as some other shoes in the market. The 1080 V15 used to be a really good walking shoe in version 14. However, this is narrower, it's softer, it's less stable underfoot. Yes, you can use it for walking if you're really interested in it, but it's just not as good as a walking shoe as it was in the V14. When it comes to running, they're completely different again. So the 880 V15 is kind of like your stable daily trainer. You can do easy miles, recovery miles, longer distance running in it, slightly on the heavier end, but it still can do up to marathon distance running. It's not a faster workout shoe, it's not a shoe for doing strides in. Just because of the nature of the cushioning, it isn't as responsive. Whereas the 1080 V15 is a complete overhaul when it comes to running. It's lighter, it's snappier, it's bouncier and more energetic than the V14. Therefore, it can do some up-tempo workouts, some fartleks. It can still do up to marathon distance, no problem. You're getting more flexibility in the forefoot than what we saw in the V14 and also compared to the 880. So overall, it's more now a running shoe than the versatile option that we saw in the past. The 880 is still your classic versatile option that you can use for both. And then when it comes to medical conditions, if you're looking in the ball of the foot, you've got arthritis in the big toe, you've got ball of foot issues, or you have Morton's neuroma, the 880 is just your go-to shoe. It's stiff, comes in lots of variety of widths, going to give you lots of protection in there. Also, if you've got issues around sensitivity around heel pain, the 880 is also a really good solid option as well, and it can take an orthotic without any issues. The 1080 struggles with an orthotic just because it's a little bit shallower in the forefoot, a little bit more flexible and a little bit more tapered, so not ideal for those of you with ball of foot conditions. So it's more of a classic neutral shoe, some pronation control issues, it's not going to be ideal either. So it's really for those of you with a strong, healthy foot that want a slightly faster workout shoe that's a little bit lighter than the previous iteration. If you tried them or you're interested in them, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. There's links to them in the description if you want to check out the latest price on Amazon. And if you watch regularly or you're new here and you haven't subscribed, it's the single thing that you can do for free that makes the biggest difference to the channel. Thank you very much for watching.